Oh.
I'm terrible at
Well,
It's all quiet like that. All right, well, we'll start early then as everyone's here. We're going to start this meeting to order. So please join me in the flag salute. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We need an approval of the agenda with a little bit of tweaks. We're going to move some of Ashley's stuff around, so we just have to be a little bit flexible. But I would like an approval of the agenda, please. A motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the agenda as given with a few tweaks, for which we trust your good nature.
Say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Public comments on the agenda item. Nobody has signed up to talk, but is there anybody who would like to just make a comment regarding what's on the agenda tonight? Mr. Spacer. That's okay. Going once, twice. All right, board member comments, and we'll start to the right with.
I've just been busy getting my shop started,
Cool.
and I have to apologize for missing the last meeting that we had moved from a Thursday to Tuesday, and in my phone it said event, but it didn't tell me what, and I, being in my busyness.
Well, if you haven't been to the high school performance, Mamma Mia, you need to go. It's fabulous. It's just as good as any college performance I've ever seen, or small community theater. Go. You'll really enjoy it. Kids enjoy it. Everybody does. It's great. And if you just look at the minister at the end, that would be my granddaughter.
Yes, yes.
And that's it.
That's cute.
Well, I went to the play, and my colleague does not exaggerate. It was what it's intended for is the extra oomph we gave in the building of that theater so that it would be state-of-the-art. And when I was at Memphis, our department was right next by theater, and there was always people taking boards down the halls to build sets and that kind of thing. So I got a sense of what a sophisticated outfit was like, particularly when it comes to electronics. And so I was very pleased, and I agree with Laura. I think Memphis was a tad maybe up a bit, but these young people are really coming on. It just thrilled your heart to be there. It was a very happy event. It spoke well of our school, spoke well of our planning, and spoke well of our kids and teachers. This last Saturday, as your ledge rep, I went to a regional conference, a kind of a legislative wrap-up of the season, and there were a number of things that we discussed, and for those of you that would be interested, I've got the main pass-outs. The main takeaway for me was that our interests under policy governance are distinct, as I've said before, from those of some of the other things. We're interested in the same thing, but our prudence has paid off, so not for the reasons that our colleagues in other districts are. And it wouldn't be amiss if at some time Dana were to recap for us some of the key things we ought to be mindful of, particularly as we approach a season in which many of us will be in closer contact with the public than we have been usually. I sit in on weekly legislative calls on the phone every Friday, and I was very pleased to go to a go to a dinner of the superintendent's organization and see our own Spencer gain another award for his citizenship and leadership. Oh, and you guys some meetings ago gave me the permission to take forward our resolution about the fully funding of We the People program, which would be a benefit to our teachers as well as to our students when we meet in the fall. I don't know if I went to a roundtable or not. But if I did, it was a good experience. And I was able to judge for Project Citizen that our middle schoolers had on. I was very pleased to do that.
Dramatic pause, is that it?
So that, yeah, that was, a lot going on, that's all.
I've been really busy though. It's not like I can really pinpoint to what, which is sort of frustrating for me. I did attend a roundtable, which was very well attended, very good information. Thank you, Spencer, for putting that on. And just this week I attended a safety and security breakfast put on by the ESD with some speakers out of Ohio. Very good information. Kind of, they take a little bit of a different tact with some of the issues of a facility. So really good. There's a mother-daughter combo, and they played off each other pretty well. So, Art.
Well, I don't have nearly as much to report as John, nor nearly as dramatic, but I had some fun things to report and some not so fun things. Didn't work. That is, it didn't connect, but it's still connecting. The new computer that you gave me, I took it home with that with anything but the Girl Scout computer that I have at work. And it connected. Did work at home, and I figured, well, I'm not going to be able to get this new one to work. What's working? So I have on the screen here the agenda and stuff, and of course I did have this trouble with this connectivity at the Girl Scout camp, which has been going on now at least since November, and probably earlier. And the tech department still is not showing up or whatever, and we've got people blowing fuses, including myself, and yet I can't even get my own personal Gmail account to run, but I can get the Girl Scout one to run.
That's good.
And so that's what I'm having to use currently. And then, of course, usually coming here to do this, except it worked yesterday. Now, for the scholarships for kids, graduating kids, for a couple different organizations, including Kiwanis and North Mason Scholarship Foundation and that sort of thing. And that is always on paper for a while, plus there's some interviews that we'll be doing to further that with some other kinds of scholarships. But then also, of course, which I love to brag about, is the Builders Club. The Builders Club did several things and culminated several out to 3 different food banks, I guess. They're one of the 3. And they wrote a thank you letter to that. There's still some follow-up. The Builders Club kids had voted they were going to give a prize to the classroom that brought the most food, and there were 2 classrooms that brought the most food. So those 2 classrooms get prizes, but we haven't done that yet. And then also the Builders Club went on a field trip to the Horse Rescue Society in Greatview, and we discovered that they had had a fire, and they had the house that the owners or whatever lived in had burned down along with some other stuff, and so we were doing some of that cleanup. It burned up last September. That I hadn't heard, but here it was. So anyway, we had 10 or 11 of our Builders Club kids and 3 of the Key Club members, including Spencer, who came with us. And we did a whole bunch of work, and it was very rewarding to do that work and to feel like you're helping out a community service. And for the kids, this is their #1 favorite project. Touch them and pet them and whatever it is. And they look forward to that just a little bit. And then third, they also completed a project on creating some baskets for auction for the Mason County Humane Society. And they produced a basket for cats and a basket for dogs. Well, you can decide that for yourself. But anyway, I brought them down to the Humane Society who were very pleased with that, and I'm waiting for the sake of the kids that they're going to send a thank you letter. Any case, so that's enough, I guess.
Okay. That's complete. Yeah. Spencer.
Okay, so at the high school, we've been busy. We're kind of redoing the way we do class elections and ASB elections. So we've redone that, and we're getting ready to do those next week. And then I'm going to do another student roundtable forum next Wednesday with a little smaller group. And that'll be the last one for the year. And then all of our clubs have been doing a lot more things and getting involved. And then the theater is doing their play, which is really good and successful. And then we have multiple sports teams and individuals that are going to state for their sports.
Did you get an award through your Boy Scout organization? You
Yeah.
reached some sort of status?
Yeah, I got my Eagles.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's a little big deal, isn't it?
All right.
All right, with that, we'll move on to number 2, Capital Classroom Project, and a presentation by students of Mrs. Wynn.
I'll introduce and then sort of like we do capital classroom. So first video. Hi, I'm Mrs. Wynn, and then I have some students from my classes, but I also wanted to let you guys know that Mrs. Nansted's class also worked on Capital Classroom. So what Capital Classroom is, I'll step to the side, is it's a program that's produced by TBW. And could you go back to the list of schools? And so what we have here, and then if you scroll down, so Capital Classroom has 14 schools that participated, and those are all schools throughout Washington State. So we were one of 14 schools that. Notice Hawkins Middle School has a 1 and a 2 next to it because they have, this year they gave us 2 lobbyists. So our entire 8th grade that is not in Mrs. Lester's honors class was able to participate in this. So we had all of the 8th graders doing civic involvement. So we had a lobbyist assigned to us in the morning and in the afternoon. So all the kids were able to participate. And what it is TBW gives a grant, and you're able to connect with a lobbyist, a real live lobbyist that works in Olympia, and they donate their time, and the kids Google how much they make, and one of our lobbyists makes $280,000 a year because it's public information. And so then we get real serious that we have someone who makes that much money down in the Capitol building donating their time and working for us. And so we used to do Google Hangouts, but those didn't work very well, so now we do Zoom connections. And it's a lot of work getting ready for these because the kids have to have research and information, they have to have good questions, and they have to do their homework. But real quickly, one video, and I was just gonna show you just a minute or two of what we do in the classroom. And we had Drew McEwen, who was our representative, and was our main bill sponsor. The kids picked a bill to track and follow and get passed, and that was House Bill 1599. But I want the kids to talk a little bit more about that. So we're going to be at 505.
Can you offer any advice how we can help you get the bill passed since you are the main bill sponsor?
Yeah, well, thanks. And first, hello to everybody. It's a pleasure to join you, and I appreciate that you're tracking this bill. In terms of how you can help, would be to start emailing and writing to the senators that are on the Education Committee. They're the ones that will be hearing it next since it's passed off the House floor, and we need to get it voted out of their committee and then onto the Senate floor. So by contacting the senators on the Education Committee would be a great first step.
They're working on it now.
Right.
They've been writing their personal testimony, then they'll be gathering evidence, and then they'll be making the ask all in an email by the end of the week.
Okay, great.
Okay, thank you.
And that is Rhonda Weaver, one of our lobbyists, and then that's Drew McEwen. We're in the 35th district, and he talked to the kids. And the next piece I just wanted to show you is at 9:34. And so, you know, the kids learn about bills and they learn about the legislative process, but they also just learn a lot about the people in Olympia that they're kind of there and that they really care about them.
Like the 13 people voted no. Based on those numbers, we think some senators will oppose it, so we want to send them emails.
Yes, well, the 13 people that voted no, they were wrong. That's a joke. But you know, some people believe, some of my colleagues believe that by having these tests as a high school graduation requirement, it raises the bar and makes the diploma more meaningful. And I understand their argument, but I disagree that these tests should be the method to do that. But some of them hold that view, and that's why they voted no.
Okay, so Cheyenne is gonna talk to you about the bill that the kids picked.
We chose House Bill 1599, and it is an act relating to the promoting career and college readiness through modified high school graduation requirements. Removing the direct link between statewide assessments and graduation requirements by discontinuing the certification of academic achievements after the graduating class of 2019 and the certifications of the individual achievements after the graduating class of 2021.
Hello, my name is James Dorson. During Capital Classroom, I was so impressed in the way everything was to be able to pass our bill as a class. The experience with my lobbyist was so much fun. She was super nice and was a hard worker. I am so glad I moved to this school because at my old school it was a lot of book work, but at this school it's a better Capital Classroom. We had to email senators and we had to inform them and try to convince them to go with our bill. And we went through the path, we passed the chamber, we passed all those in the House and in the Senate. Then after all of that, it went to the president, and it took him about 2 weeks or so. Then he finally signed it, and then now it's law.
Governor or the president?
Governor, sorry.
My name is Marion, and our lobbyists were John Watson and Christine Brewer. They were very helpful with helping us pass the bill by assigning us homework, and then you good. Now, thanks to how much our lobbyists helped us, I understand more about the government and how it works. I also enjoyed how much the people in Olympia helped us pass this bill because they were really helpful. I don't know.
You're doing a good job.
Do you want me to read this? You want me to read this for you? Okay, my name is Taylor Schooler. Me and my Jasmine, we emailed Madam Chairwoman Wellman, we emailed her asking her to support our bill and vote for it. And we went to the Capitol to meet our lobbyists and have a tour of the Capitol. And that was probably my favorite part of it. And even though I cannot vote because I'm too young, I'm glad that I was able to have a voice about something important that actually had something that would impact people in a good way, and that Hawkins 8th graders really made a difference for seniors. Seniors now have a better chance to graduate without having to take a test, without having to take a test, but with a solid high school and beyond plan.
Hi, my name is Jasmine Castro. So, Capital Classroom was fun to work with our lobbyists, and we got to learn how lobbyists work down Capitol. And we also got to take a tour down to the Capitol and see how their daily life is. We also got to use our First Amendment by petitioning the government. And at the same time, we got to video meetings or whatever. Sure. At the end, we got to ask questions and then they would give us homework. The homework wouldn't be like video work, it'd actually be like fun. And we got to email people, senators. We also had fun doing it.
Okay, I figured out what I was gonna say. I enjoy how much people in Olympia wanted to help us get this bill passed because it showed that they really care about how high school is graduating these next couple years, including us when we graduate in 2023. We'll be able to, I don't know what I'm gonna say about that, but I'm just happy that they cared about this and that they tried really hard and were working really hard to help us get this bill passed.
Also, without this bill, 41% that the seniors would not be able to graduate, so.
Okay, I just have one more thing and then we're done. I almost forgot it. Okay, I remembered it. It shows, going down to Olympia, it shows that the lobbyists really care about the bill and passing it so the seniors can more likely graduate. Because some people think that, some people said that, oh my gosh, that people read the bill and just like pass it along, but it really shows that they actually care and like really like look into it.
Thank you.
Thank
It was student enrichment page. I worked down in Olympia and I learned about the PAGE program and what the pages do and how they help with the process of bills because they pass the notes around. So it's very like great experience working there. It just makes me want to work harder to get like actually to be a senator.
Wow.
Thank you.
Hi, I am Julie Bannon. I was a student teacher in Mrs. Wynn's class while we were doing Capital Classroom. And we also got parents involved in this process. So as soon as we kicked it off, we sent out an email to TBW so that parents could watch all of the programs that we actually had the students doing. They got so involved in the process that they actually were able to ring Mrs. Wynn and tell her when the bill was signed before we even actually knew the bill was signed on the 7th of May. And during parent-teacher conferences, it was something that we showed so that parents could actually see what the process was and also get their kids more involved in that process as well.
And I didn't do my why at the beginning of the year. I don't know if I was a little burned out or maybe I just, didn't want to be a show pony kind of. But these kids right here, they're definitely my why. So.
Yeah.
And getting the kids out of the textbook and having hands-on, and it's very scary going live because you don't know what they're gonna do. People saying the baby's gonna die at midnight if your kids don't do this, and it's very stressful. But now that we're back into the textbook, I think they wish that we could just pick another bill. And then in 6 years that I've been doing it, we've passed 3 out of the 6 bills. And so we have a 50% pass rate for Hawkins Middle School and 90% of bills die, so we have a really good record. We also pick bills that have legs, to be honest, that have bipartisan support, because we picked a bill that I think will have legs. So thank you. And then Lori, did you want to?
Well, it just runs like a smooth machine because Mrs. Wynn has been doing this and she's a great manager. This is the first year I've ever done this and I was thrilled at how to get the computers. We're doing emails today and they just went right to it and they were so good. We have to check all the emails. The kids did an excellent job and then they got responses back. Real. This is a wonderful program. That's it.
A bad idea. I know that a lot of my colleagues and school board members around the state felt the same way. But this is a great example of as students taking ownership and taking action on your behalf and for your peers. And hopefully you realize how much power you do have.
Well, they learned it was hands-on. They actually learned about the government. They learned that it's real.
Yeah.
And then we took them all to Olympia also.
It was really fun.
It's
And we
better
put them
to-
there.
It's better to be there and instead of like looking at pictures and reading it.
So
No,
congratulations.
we were on the menu.
A little bit to the consent agenda. I would.
We'd be excused, we've got to get our kids.
Thanks for being here.
James, thank you.
Thank you.
Pictures. Oh, yeah, crop all that stuff. Way to go.
I accept a motion to,
Okay, I move that we approve the consent agenda, with the exception of the personnel report, not the exception of, but to include an introduction through the personnel report.
okay. Any discussion on this?
Now, let's give you all an opportunity to meet our new principal at Hawkins Middle School, Robert Callahan. Robert comes to us most recently from Bellingham and previously from Marysville, but he was born and raised in Tacoma and has family nearby in Wana and is looking forward to coming back to our part of the state. So
All
Robert,
right.
you're welcome to say a few words.
Well, evening. Thank you, Dana. Appreciate that. I'm really excited to start here right away and love the area. Right now, we've lived the last 20 years in Skagit County, and we see so many connections between Skagit County and North Mason.
Hiring, and he was also at school meeting staff and students all day today.
All right.
Well, welcome. We're excited to have you here.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, with that, let's go ahead and.
We still have to vote.
I know, that's what I was gonna say. Let's vote on the consent agenda. We have a motion. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Those opposed? Consent agenda is passed. Moving down to number 4 is a proposal for a clay target shooting league team. And Hawkins Middle School student Wyatt Borkenhagen will present his request.
So I'm very excited that Wyatt is here to do this. He came a couple of months ago to talk to me about this, and I told him I was going to have to ask him to come talk to the board because he had much more expertise in this area than I probably will ever have. And I probably asked him a couple silly questions too. So I'm really pleased that he's here to talk to you about this idea. This would function a little bit more like a club sport that like cheer does rather than like WRWIAA sports. But I'll let him talk about that.
You're on.
Well, this is why we should have a clay target league team.
You ready for the next one?
It increases the amount of people doing sports. It's the safest sport. 0 injuries since 2001. Needs 1 coach for every 10 students. This is for if kids are hunters doing it. There's 2 different ways to do it. There's if you have your hunting license and then another way, like a safe way or whatever. Grades 6th through 12th graders can participate in this, and it's a boys and girls sport. No cost to the school. It's all from the parents and families. Many teams become the largest sport team in the school. Student family benefits. Less than $250 for targets, ammo, gear, and registration fees. Our only traveling is to the local shooting range, which would be Bremerton Trap and Ski, because that's the closest to us. Once again, no accidents since 2001. It's an Olympic sport. Everyone has the same amount of targets, and everyone on the team qualifies. And we only I don't know what way to put it, 2 days a week of practice.
I have a question right off the bat. You said everyone qualifies. What does it mean to qualify?
Like, everyone has a spot to shoot in competitions.
So if there's a competition, everyone who comes along with the club, the team, is going to be participating? Is that what that means? Okay.
These are coach resources. For the head coach, it's free, and assistant coaches, it's $50.
Question on that one too. Does that mean that the head coach gets to shoot for free, but the assistant coaches have to pay $50 to shoot? I was not sure what that meant.
Yeah, I don't really either. That, like, I got something to help me make this, so it just said free for head coaches.
Right, so something is free to the head coaches and some assistant coaches have to pay $50 for something. But we're not quite sure what it is yet.
Right, I think it looks like it's the registration with the organization.
Yeah, that's what I think it is.
Okay.
That's what I think.
With the high school Clay Target League, USA Clay Target.
Hosting a team it starts first week of April. Once again, need shoot 2 days a week for practice. It's a weekday typically after 4. And then targets are minimum 50 per student per 9 weeks.
Another question. So is this a team that happens just a portion of the year, or does it go on all year long? Or?
It's for 9 weeks.
So the 9 weeks that's up there is the time frame for when this team would exist at school, or as part of school. Okay, thanks.
And then I think the way Riley explained it to me is that the students, the athletes shoot, and your scores get recorded electronically and compared with other teams, and that's how you win or score.
That's how you score it.
Okay.
It's not like let's say volleyball, because there was a match today. Schools don't travel to other schools to do it. They do it online.
Oh, so you guys shoot here?
Yes.
You do and then you post online, so you're not traveling to different clubs? Oh, okay.
And then ammo can be coordinated through the team.
Is there a club nearby, another club nearby, and does another school host that you're aware of, a team?
I don't know how close these are, but I have a list of them and it's on the
Can you give me a
site.
few? Yeah.
It's coming up.
Oh, it's coming up, I'm sorry.
So another
questions to the administrator.
Yeah, another question then. So since you'll be shooting at Bremerton Track and Ski for this sort of thing, how would you get there? Is this something that because you're a club you would be bused there, or is it something that parents bring you there, or?
I think it's bus, but that's where the registration fees and stuff come in. For the bus.
Okay.
That's fairly close. The place right up the road by the airport, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
It's right there. That I got my information from that website.
Okay.
There's some pictures of some teams.
Is that the end of it? All right.
Well, I'm really impressed with your presentation. It's very complete. This has a ton of information in it, so before we just blast a bunch of questions at Wyatt, we should read this first and maybe contact him through the school. But that was a very good presentation and it was very complete. I had some questions before that are now answered, so I really appreciate you standing up there. Thanks, Wyatt.
I have a question and a comment. Is this something you do with your dad or your family? You've been doing this for a little while?
Well, I'm the president of a 4-H club that is now in Mason County. Mason County 4-H Sharpshooters.
Very cool.
And I'm the president of that. And this year we just started skeet shooting. Last year we started archery. And these are the first 2 years. And then before that, we didn't have a 4-H team in Mason County for 15 years.
So my comment is, for public speaking, you do a very good job. You stay with your PowerPoint and you play against it, so you're not just reading it from the PowerPoint and you kind of use your hands. It's just giving you feedback because even adults have a hard time with that, so you do a very good job.
Would you be proposing that we start this from next April? So the next spring season, since I would assume the season's already started?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Wyatt.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
So I would like to maybe put this on as an action item for next month.
Okay.
If that,
Yeah.
if that works, then we'll work back.
Okay, sounds good.
Sounds good to me.
All right, number 5, elementary configuration and school start times advisory committee.
Sure. One of the things I asked a couple people to be here tonight to help talk about this, actually several people. So we had a number of representatives from each of our buildings, from transportation, from the district office, from parents, to look at the question that we've asked or been asked repeatedly. Can we do anything about start times, and what are we going to do about class sizes as we continue to grow? We spent several weeks considering both questions. We came up with some new questions that we will also have to address. But ultimately, we determined that at this point in time, to change the start times for the high school and middle school, the only way to do that would be to flip-flop with the elementary school, which effectively solves one problem by creating another one. The committee recommendation in regards to the idea of start times is that if we believe that that's truly what's best for kids and we want to have later start times, that they would be more inclined to recommend moving towards a universal later start time, so that, you know, all grade bands start at the same time, which would mean we'd have to do some long-range planning and budgeting for transportation, because it would require a different way of getting kids to school, because right now we can use the same buses for the early run and the late run, and this would require us to have all the runs at the same time. So we would have, bus drivers would have shorter work days, but we would need more of them and more buses. So there's more long-term thinking to do, and the costs, and so that's not a 1 year, 2 year, 3 year fix. So we're letting the board know that that would be something that we might want to consider, and the board can consider it in more depth at another, or as we go along. What we did determine is, as we looked at the numbers, the projections, growth, and all the rules about class sizes and how many classrooms we have, and where we're going to be going, and as we're growing, you know, we've already talked about, we will soon probably be talking to the community about a bond to replace and move Belfair, and so we'll be wanting to change the size of that school at that time, and then have a multi-year plan probably if we continue to grow for additional school sites as we keep growing as a district. So in the meantime, we were able to determine that we could make some changes that would work for probably the next couple of years at a minimum, by shifting the current transportation boundaries and moving about 50 kids who are currently in the Belfair boundary into the Sand Hill boundary. So I have transportation here to talk about exactly what that looks like. We also have talked with Jason and Dan and about, you know, we care about our families. So we're developing a plan with the elementary principals and transportation to meet with the families that are impacted and go over everything and try to make a plan that works for everybody. So you guys want to talk about where the change exactly is? Because I will probably not get it exactly right.
We're gonna have the big picture map. Not that. Let's go to the other piece first. Can you go to the map, Denise? Yeah, the big picture one. Big picture. So this map is everything that's got a number on it right now is currently Belfair Elementary. Okay. And where we would be, what we would be doing is changing it right at Newkirk on Old Belfair Highway. Everything north would become Sand Hill Elementary. And everything
south would stay Belfair. So everything in red would remain Belfair, everything in blue would be changed to Sand Hill. You wanna switch to the up close one? And that map, of course, obviously can get the in close. So this is up close with the boundary, where the boundary would be. Newkirk Road provides a great turnaround spot for the buses to be able to go in, pick up all of those kids, and then turn around and come back out. And then the buses going for Sand Hill can go up Old Belfair Highway and come back down and go to Sand Hill Elementary. The ride time for the kids way up in the north at those lakes is a negligible difference between Sand Hill and Belfair Elementary. Honestly, it works out to be about 2 to 3 minutes between the two elementary schools. However, it will give us the possibility, and we have, we're looking at all routes throughout the district and seeing what we can do for changing of route times and changes we can make to routes to look at things. But with this change, it looks like we'll be able to only move one bus to Sand Hill, because there's 3 routes that service this area right now. And of those 3, we will only move one to Sand Hill, and we would keep one at Belfair, and we'd actually be able to remove a route.
Which would be helpful, because one of the things that came up from the committee is the committee was really interested in the length of some of the routes, and we do have a couple of routes, or at least one, that's quite long, well, per grade level.
Yeah, there's 2 at the high school level, 2 at the elementary level that are about an hour and a half.
So we'd like to look at how we can shorten those and split them, and so the kids are on the bus shorter. And that came out of the committee.
So this is actually basically neighborhoods north of Newkirk, because Newkirk looks like it's still within.
Yeah, Newkirk would stay at Belfair. Because that is a great spot for the bus to be able to go in, pick up all of those kids and turn around and come back out. So that works out really well transportation wise, because it's already an area we go in and turn around at. And so.
So they would stay at Belfair Elementary?
Yes, Newkirk
would. The Newkirk community would?
Yes.
Oh, the whole community, or just that road?
No, the whole community.
Okay. Yeah, it looks like it basically cuts all those houses.
Yeah.
Behind there.
So everything in blue then?
Would become Sand Hill.
Sand Hill. And that would include the lakes?
Yes, the lakes way up north, Tygart and Panthers.
Which are now going to Belfair.
Which are right now going to Belfair.
Tygart is going to Belfair?
Yes.
And they're actually closer to Sand Hill anyway.
Yes.
Okay.
For what it's worth, this is not reviewing some old stuff because I wasn't on the board. About 20 years ago, maybe longer than 20 years ago, some of this was already at Sand Hill. And
that's what I
when
thought,
my daughter
yeah.
was in Sand Hill, there was a shift from to send kids to Belfair Elementary. It didn't affect her. She kept going to Sand Hill, but a whole bunch of kids that she knew suddenly were now going to Belfair. And it wasn't exactly the same district change, but it's happened before. It's just interesting to see that the communities change and our needs change.
It is, and one of the things we wanted to look at is, we anticipate that when we get approval and build a new Belfair Elementary, it will have a larger capacity than the current one. That ultimately will, at some point in the not too distant future, we'll be adding a 3rd elementary school. So we wanted to kind of plan in a way that we wouldn't have to redo the boundaries again, but we would change a different boundary as we bring another school online. So.
What's the breakdown of students per grade? I mean, are we going to be doing 4th and 5th graders who've been their whole career at Belfair Elementary?
You might talk about that.
That's all the bird schools.
So Sand Hill will be getting about 47 kids peppered across all grade levels, which means we won't have to add any more staffing because we have the building capacity, and we won't have to add portables, and we will be within the legal realm of class sizes for contract language as well as the state requires. So our plan, Mr. King and I, are to communicate with these families that are going to be making this change by calling them, and we'll spread that out amongst us and our assistant principals, and then inviting them to Sand Hill for a tour and just a meet and greet type of thing.
So those concerns that you just addressed would be
addressed on an individual basis. One of the other things that we're doing to address the class size issue is this year, the principals are having to take a more careful look at requests for choice transfers. And although they go both ways between the two buildings, it is less likely that Belfair will be able to approve all the ones that they get because they're running out of space. And so that may also change some attrition for some schools. So altogether, as we get through all of these meetings and conversations, the goal is to have about a net 50 change for next year.
So with regards to kids that may live in Belfair going to Sand Hill or vice versa now, will those be kind of null and void at the end of the school year, then kind of redecided at that point?
Yeah, that happens every year.
Okay.
Every year, people that are attending the school that's not in their attendance area have to request choice transfer to the other school.
Right.
So that's nothing new.
Okay.
But at least for Belfair, being able to accept those might be more difficult because of the growth of their classes.
So in the classes now, it's about 18 or 19 average for Sand Hill. How much will that grow average in the classroom?
Well, I don't know the exact numbers, but we broke down the kids that are coming. So we looked at each one and what grade level we have and the current numbers of kids we have in those grade levels. And we'll be within that range.
That still fit us within the class size requirements for K-3 and 4-5. So
we're running a little lower than Belfair.
I know, I felt like spoiled, with the smaller, but that seems all right.
So Jason, were you going to Belfair Element or to Sand Hill when that change happened back in the 90s?
I don't remember.
Oh,
no. Yeah, I'm older, but I didn't have Sand Hill back then.
No, he was
Oh, so you had
He just
Rocky
looks
Grits
very
at Belfair.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
I would accept a motion to approve the school boundary changes.
I make a motion to approve changing the school boundary lines between Sand Hill and Sand.
I have a little bit of heartache. I hope that with a lot of care is taken, going into 5th grade last year of elementary school being totally moving, I think it's a pretty tough ask. I mean, it's already 1 year, then you're going to the middle school. So I hope the best outcomes can come from that.
And this is starting this next year.
Craig, this is current, right? Yeah, there's 10 total. Yeah, so 4th graders, there's 10 total 5th graders. 10 total 4th graders that are gonna be becoming 5th graders that are affected by this boundary change.
Okay. Thank you.
I have a question before. So the ones that are coming into the 5th year, is there gonna be a consideration if somebody wanted to stay at the other school for that last year, would there be a chance or a case-by-case basis, or?
We'd have to look at space available and case-by-case basis.
I know that question would come up later on to me when people ask it.
Yes.
Okay.
We'll want to do things that are, we don't want to do anything that's too painful for anybody.
Right.
So we'll try to be as helpful and accommodating as possible.
All those in favor of approving the boundary lines for Sand Hill and Belfair, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Number 6, WIA Authority Annual Resolution. And this is presentation.
No.
Okay, so this is just a motion to adopt Resolution 01-G-19, which delegates authority to the WIAA, which is a reoccurring.
And you have to name a board member to be there.
Oh, okay then. Does anybody want to volunteer to be the WIAA representative?
Who is that current?
Leanna.
Leanna.
I put a lot of.
So during the time I was going through the hospital stuff and all that, so.
Don't even worry.
If anybody wants to.
There's hardly any work to it.
I can stay the person or if anybody wants to.
I'll do it.
You want to do it?
Sure.
Okay. So, to approve 01-G-19 and have Laura vote as our representative to the WIA, take a motion.
So move.
Any discussion? We kind of already discussed. All those in favor of resolution 01-G-19, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Passes. All right, moving fast. Number 7, transportation vehicle fund budget extension. And, oh, almost like on cue.
Oh, is it my turn?
Well done, Doc.
Okay. Where are we starting?
We are starting at the vehicle fund budget extension.
Okay. So, if you guys will recall, we had that bus accident in September, so the bus was totaled. We worked with the insurance company in order to get a replacement bus ordered. It should be here in the beginning of January. Well, since we didn't expect for the bus accident to occur, the TVF fund didn't have enough capacity in order to actually purchase the new bus. So all this extension is doing is allowing me to increase the TVF fund by $81,000, which is the money coming from the insurance company to cover the bus replacement. So that is what the extension is for.
Do you have anything on that, or is that?
That's all I have.
Okay, I'll accept a motion to
We
approve.
need to recess into public hearing for comments first, because it's that kind of.
Oh, I'm sorry. All right, so we'll recess from this meeting and go into a public testimony meeting for the case of extending the budget. Was that?
That's correct.
All right. Anybody have any comments regarding a TVF fund? That's the best thing I've seen. All right. With no further action on that one, we will close that. And now we'll reconvene our meeting. Oh, I'm not striking the gavel that many times. And I will accept a motion to accept resolution 08-G-19.
I move that we approve and adopt resolution 08-G-19, the TVF budget extension as presented.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, that passes. Number 8, recommendation for final acceptance.
We're gonna have to sit down for this.
Oh, sorry.
That's
You good with that?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Okay.
This is the bond stuff.
Okay, we'll go to the recommendation for final acceptance then. Erickson McGovern submitted recommendations for final acceptance of the new North Mason High School project and the Hawkins Middle School renovation and addition project. So we have two subsets of this: recommendation for final acceptance of North Mason High School, and then B is the recommendation for final acceptance of the Hawkins Middle School renovation and addition project. And this is looks like two different resolutions. Resolution 11G-19, which is for
Let's start with the high school.
that's Hawkins. It's 11G-19.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. 9G-19 would be for the high school, right?
And 10, there's 2.
Who's gonna make it so difficult?
We
All right, I'll accept a motion to approve resolution 9-G-19 and 10G-19.
Mr. Chairman, I move we accept resolution 9G-19, certification for final acceptance of North Basin High School, and 10G-19, acceptance of the building commissioning report for North Mason High School.
All right, any discussion?
Quick question, go ahead.
Sorry, I do have a question. As I read through this 3-inch binder, there was a comment regarding unresolved issues. There were only 3 or 4, I think, and I was just concerned that if we accept this and sign off, will those not ever be resolved?
What has happened? Well,
I have the
commission
same question.
is a very complex process, and the only reason why that you're approving it is because OSPI requires that to close out the project. Basically, it's about 6 months worth of having engineers meet together, controls engineers meet together, and make sure the system functions. Every large project will have a few unresolved resolutions. The ones that we have here are more opinions of the commissioning agent, and for the most part, they're not contractually supported, so we could not really enforce those. So every time I do this, I always have the question of why do we have a few resolutions? You know, of the 10,000 issues we have, if we find 2 or 3 that says, no, that's not really contractually supported, or it functions just fine without it, and thank you for your opinion, commissioning agent, That's what occurs. And that's why the mechanical engineer of record, which was slid inside the binder, had accepted and recommended approval of the commissioner report.
Okay, that answers my question completely. Thank you.
And I guess high inside would have it, because this is probably the third time I've been in front of the school board answering this question, and I should write a cover letter saying, this is why this found off.
Good idea.
Yes.
So it would be the same question probably for Hawkins.
Yeah, it's just similar questions for Hawkins. Welsh Commissioning Group was an excellent commissioning agency, very thorough, very, had a lot of common sense, and a very good hire. It's separated from the contract. The commissioning agent is hired by the school district to satisfy OSPI requirements.
Okay.
And then the final acceptance is because the contractor has met all their contractual obligations for the project.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Answers my question.
Yeah.
Did you have one, Art?
No, that was it also.
Oh, okay.
I do have a different one, but not for ready for Dana. Although really you've told us here by having our thing, the administration recommends. But are there any things that are outstanding for you that you have questions and concerns about?
With a big project like this, there are gonna be some things that probably don't turn out quite the way you expected them to. We've had some ongoing things to work on at Hawkins particularly, but as we've moved through this year, I think we've gotten to the resolution that we're going to get on those, and as much as we can based on what the contract was to build. So they've been very, between Erickson McGovern and the contractors, they've been very receptive and very helpful this year, working with our maintenance department to make sure that we figure everything out and everybody figures out how to effectively keep things running and all those things. So no, I think we're in a pretty good place.
Unfortunately, in school construction, it takes longer to close it out than it does to build it. And that's just kind of the nature of that, because there's so many hoops and so many. With the new energy code, it's so complicated now. Everything's computerized, digitized. It's not just, 50 years ago it used to be 10 drawings. Now it's 300.
Oh my gosh, yeah. It's incredible.
It's a complicated thing.
What's the timeline we're looking at before we already start to have to make capital improvements or something to go for this?
It's gonna be a while for the high school. Probably longer for the high school than for the middle school. If we continue to grow the way we are, we will probably have to find a way to add on middle school spaces somewhere in the not too distant future, because we've gone in the last 5 years from barely 400 middle school students to over 500. That's a big change. So we continue to keep an eye on that. At the high school, the building is built for a capacity of over 900.
It's built for close to 900, but the cores are designed for 1,000 to 1,100. And we've created a spot where the greenhouse is for an additional classroom wing.
Right. So that will be the plan there. Our wings are built in those nice L shapes. We could put a third L on at some point that was part of the planning that Erickson McGovern did for us.
That was one of our selling points to the community when we did all that.
Yeah. So it will be different than that when we need to add on to the middle school, or as we watch our growth and look at our elementary school growth is in the next several years, we'll be starting to talk instead of adding on to another building. So we're still kind of up in the air about which way that's gonna go.
Does James Taylor, is that included in the high school part, or is that something separate?
No, James Taylor is not a called SCAP funded, not a state assisted funded project. So it doesn't have the same criteria. We went through commissioning on James Taylor, but we don't need to have the requirement of court approval for that commissioning. So there will be, as we get through these little projects and nuances with Mason County, I'll be following up with other letters to accept James Taylor, to accept the stadium, and the future stadium and things like that as we go along.
There's the remodel to this building.
This building too. This building as well. Except this is not a school, so technically you don't have a time clock for state assistance on this building.
Thanks, Ray.
Any further discussion on these two resolutions? All right, I'll call for the question on resolution 9G19 and 10G19. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, those North Mason High School is accepted. All right, same verse, or second verse, same as the first. This will be for resolution 11G19, which is the building commissioning report, and resolution 12G19, which is final acceptance of Hawkins Middle School renovation and addition project. Take a motion.
I move we approve resolution 11G19 for the building commission report and resolution 12G19 for final acceptance of the Hawkins Middle School renovation and addition project.
All right, discussion.
I really like the pictures. The other one was a whole bunch of specs, and you could still see things. But this report had a bunch of pictures. You could actually, oh, that's how it works. And so
Different agent.
I thought it was very, I thought it was very layperson friendly, and I appreciate it. No, my intelligence was not insulted by the pictures. I thought it was pleasantly boosted, and detail with which these buildings are checked. And that is something very important for us to have on the board, particularly as we talk to the public.
Okay, those in favor of approving resolution 11G19 and 12G19 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, Hawkins Middle School renovation addition is accepted. Number 9, 2019-20 budget. Thank you, Ray, for all.
Thank you, Ray.
Okay, so normally I would love to have a lot more details to provide for next year's budget. I don't know if you guys have seen any of the information put out by OSPI recently. They finally released the budget module for 1920 today. But they stated that the revenue calculator, which is what we use to base all of our revenues on for the next year, won't be available till mid-June. And they also stated that if you try to do your budget right now and try to manually hand enter everything, because you're supposed to import your revenues in, that you're gonna have to do a manual reconciliation later on. So we've been trying to do some Excel budget work to sort of pinpoint where we're gonna be. We've done that, we talked about it at cabinet today as well. But for a higher level review, we have our 4-year budget that was prepared last year. That will be redone this year. But based upon the 4-year budget, Denise, can you bring the 4-year budget up? Go to the second page. So this is enrollment forecast. So right there, revenues, it shows at 32,872,000. We're going to be closer to 34 million next year for revenue. Some of that's based upon increased student enrollment. When we budgeted, of course, we budget conservative. And then another part of that is due to November. We'll only be able to collect half of it during next budget year, so we'll only realize half the increase, but half of it is better than what we had before. And then increase in categorical funds, LAP, CTE, those type of funding. So we will see closer, about 1.2 million more than what you're seeing there for the 1920 forecast. Expenditures are really hard to pinpoint right now because we are literally in the midst of negotiations with every other group except for teachers. So a lot of it's based upon that. We've been doing some trending and analyzing to make sure that when we do budget, we're budgeting as close to possible for actual costs, sure that our budget is transparent as possible. So that's what we have right now for 1920. I'm hoping to have a much better picture for you come June. 1920? Okay.
How long before we have a better idea of expenditures?
Depending upon when we're done with negotiations. If it's just my personal opinion, I would love to be done with negotiations in June, but I don't know if that's
Our
something
budget
this
and
year.
expenditures will be presented to you
On July 10th. So that will either be based upon knowns or estimates. The downfall is last year we presented on estimates because negotiations did not conclude until the last second, yeah. And then we're really off on budget right now because of it. So that's one of the things that is something that we're trying to avoid, because I'll have to be coming back to you guys next month for a budget extension in general fund. And I'll explain more when you guys see the numbers for this month, but it's not bad. But we received more revenue and we're spending more. So we'll have to do another budget extension. My goal is to try to not have to do that next year. It creates more work for you guys, it creates more work for, admin, all of us. So we're trying to circumvent that. So that's the goal. So in a perfect world, yeah, we'd have it in June. Any other questions regarding budget? Okay. So then on our monthly update, I think we're on to next. I did want to give one little caveat that it sort of goes into our monthly update. I've been working with Michelle Waller on our nutrition CEP program. So that's our elementary schools. All elementary students receive free breakfast and lunch regardless of the parents' income. So we've worked and we're waiting on approval, but it looks like it's gonna be good. But we're going to be expanding that program from preschool through the middle school plus James A. Taylor, meaning the only students district-wide that won't be included in the program, and it's purely because the poverty threshold isn't at the 40% minimum, is the high school. So all the other students district-wide will just automatically receive free breakfast and lunch.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so, I have to commend Michelle. There's a ton of work that goes into it, manually counting direct certs and all of that. She's done a great job. Our reimbursement rate for the district will be approximately 68%. That means 68 out of the 100 students that go through the line, we get reimbursed 100% for, and then the rest we pay for. But this year, we were at 69% for the elementary schools. So even adding all of those other schools, it brings us down 1%. And that's not a huge variance when you look at the positive impact that has for the students.
Fantastic.
I love that.
Yeah, so that's a little caveat for that. So what we have for our other funds, capital projects, we're sitting at a little over 2.6 million currently. Debt service, we have 3.2 million. This is a very important one to look at because just over $1 million of that is that state forest money. You guys will see a proposal later from me regarding diverting that state forest money from debt service over to capital projects in order to fund the roof replacement at Sand Hill and do some other capital work. So that debt service fund being at 3.2 million is extremely healthy. And would support that. So that should just be on the radar for probably next month's meeting. ASB's at 390,000. We expect to see that continue to go down here through the rest of the year as final events take place for the school year. Transportation vehicle, we're at 51,000 as of the end of April. We did receive $6,000 for the surplus of the vans that you guys had approved for surplus. So currently we're sitting at closer to 57,000. Enrollment, we're still trending above average. May's enrollment was at 2,247. We'll see a dip come June, as we always do, but overall average we're trending at 2,249, so just under 2,250. Are there any questions regarding the other funds?
I want to clarify on the timber money. We're not having it, that died, right? We're not having
To take it away from us?
Yes, it did.
We get to keep it.
We do, and that is hugely beneficial for our district. So I was really glad to see that little language caveat they were trying to add got taken back out. Although you'll see as I present, we haven't gotten a whole lot of that money this year, but that's okay because we got plenty of it last year that we'll be able to utilize.
And I like that especially because they log right around me. That's those trees. They're gone now.
Yeah. Okay, so for revenues, our year-end balance is looking to be about 9.89. Our minimum fund balance is based upon expenditures, but showing that your revenues are about 9.89, you can expect your expenditure side to be about the same, which you'll see on the next page. Overall, for all of those semicircles, year-to-date, we are trending over for where we were last year. We're going to expect that because of our increased enrollment, our increased apportionment, and our increased categorical funds. Our top 10 sources of revenue, they're all trending where they have been for the rest of the year. Our state apportionment obviously being top one, but state forests, which is your third from the bottom. In our general fund, we're at 51,000 for this year. Now, we would expect higher collection during the summer. That is normally when we see higher collection for that. The last 3 months in a row, I've received money in that fund versus earlier in the year where I'd received $0 every month. So, expenditures, we're trending to end the year at approximately 10.38%. That is above the 8% minimum. You will see a change to this though, because we do have a curriculum adoption that's coming up, and a good percentage of that curriculum adoption is going to be coming from this year's budget. So that will get us closer to that 8% threshold and allow us to take some of that cost on this year versus putting all that cost on next year's budget. All of our other year-to-date expenditures, they're all trending above. A lot of that has to do with negotiated salary and benefits and raises given out in September after the budget had already been completed. Fund balance. We're currently at, as of April 30th, we were sitting at about $3.7 million. We accrue back transportation payroll, so it actually drops to about 3.6 as of April 30th after we pay transportation. You can see that we're trending slightly above where we have the last 2 years for April. That's to be expected because of the increased apportionment. And then you'll expect to see us dip a bit throughout the rest of the school year as we deplete some of those property taxes that we had collected during the month of April. So your higher financial summary, this is just showing where we are according to where we had budgeted to be at this time. Overall, our local tax, we've collected the majority of our local property taxes that we would expect to have collected. So we're at about 89% there. I'll get a higher collection in the month of May for people that had sent it in just a tad bit late, and then we'll see it trail off through the rest of the school year. The certificated salaries, we're currently at about 72%. Obviously, that is on the higher end because we had budgeted at a lower amount and approved a higher amount at that point. Your general fund high level, so your next page, this is where we start to look at where our variances are in red. We have the $294,000 in the revenue side variance. That's for federal revenue. I'm starting to pick up larger federal revenue grant claims each month now that we're getting towards the end of the year. There's more expenses to submit, more trainings and such that occur during the summer, so we're going to see that even out and get towards the black here as we get closer to June and July. Everything else is trending either above where it should be or right at where it should be. Expenditures for certificated staff, we're trending to be about $824,000 over budgeted there. And for classified staff, we're trending to be about $381,000 over budgeted for the classified staff. And that's due to the, technically the off-cycle raise that was given in September to distribute the additional money that was given for classified staff. And then we're currently at about $1.2 million in savings over what was budgeted for supplies and equipment, so for stuff. That's where I have the most authority to rein in spending and to make sure that we're only purchasing really necessary items. And so that savings is helping offset the rent specialists, and so that's why we're seeing purchase services at a higher amount. Okay, so that's what I have for the general fund. Do you guys have any questions on anything that was presented?
I just want to point out, because for anyone who may not know, the red does not mean we're broke.
Yeah.
It just means the variance between what was budgeted and what's actual. So.
Oh, you want to know what
the revenue is still more than the expenditures.
And actually, speaking of that, Craig, that was actually a point that I wanted to bring up, and that I simply had failed to do so. Could you go up one more slide, Denise, please? So on to slide 4 of 5. So there's a number that I've been tracking and I've been showing you guys on a monthly basis that we've been trending in the red this entire time. If you can expand a little bit, Denise, we're going into the second box on the right-hand side towards the bottom where it's the 1.142 million. So like Craig was saying, our total revenue collected to date is $23,179,000. Our total expenditures to date is $22,036,000, meaning we're currently have received $1.142 million more than what we have spent. So we've been tracking in the red. Last month, I believe we were at negative 58,000. And I said, just watch out, it will get in the black. We are in the black now. So we are currently in the black. So now what we'll see is we'll start to dip into that 1.1, but we shouldn't fully dip into it. So that's going to help us do the curriculum adoption here at year end and help get us through next year, which is really important. So this is a really good thing to see at this point, because it does show that we are in a solid financial position.
Would that have anything to do with the 1.2 underspending when you
Yeah.
build in
Oh,
the
yeah.
reins?
It does. It does. So that's all part of it. And the thing is even building administrators, principals have done an unbelievable job making sure that they're staying within their building budgets now at this point. There's no over, and their building budgets are, supplies and all of that kind of stuff. So they've been working really hard to stay in the black there. So it definitely is a team effort to make sure that we are only spending what's absolutely necessary, and we're negotiating absolutely everything. We get a contract through from our vendor. I can call them up and save $5,500 on one contract, $10,000 on another contract. So it's utilizing those avenues, because even those type of amounts, they save up eventually. So that's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So am I.
You can go back.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks.
You're finished
Yeah,
up.
keep on working.
Will do.
All right, so with that part, you want to go to the rest of your?
Yeah, I won't spend a lot on teaching and learning because we had the two great presentations from students. But I did want to recognize that we have completed, we have available for viewing the recommendations for K through 5 reading and literacy adoption. We're doing something a little bit different this time around. We are not adopting the same set of materials for all 5 grades. The committee and the people in the schools felt very strongly that there were different needs in the primary grades and the reading grades for reading or intermediate grades for reading instruction. So they've adopted Pontus and Pinnell as a K2 curriculum because it's very strong in developing the foundational skills that kids need to become fluent readers. And then Ready Gen in grades 3 and 5 because they feel like that better meets the needs of kids who are now becoming fluent readers and learning how to read in lots of different genres and opportunities. So the committee worked really hard. The people in the schools had lots of really good input. It was a pretty hard decision, but they ultimately decided that was the best one for our kids. So that's where we're going with that. Yesterday, our early entrance kindergarten teacher that's going to develop the program, and Jody from our preschool, and Tom went up to Bellingham to visit the Promise K program and get some more ideas and get ready to go on the planning and move forward. Ashley and Joan have done a very economical portable building to help us expand that site, and we're getting ready with permits on that. So we'll be able to move into that program and have all of those early learning programs together down on the Beller site. The site prep work, I think that's the right words, for putting the stadium building up is in the permitting process. So we'll be getting the bids for digging the holes so that the building can be put into it when it gets here very soon. So that is all very exciting because once it gets done, we can start planning the softball stadium, and then we can have come to completion of those projects that we have talked about for so long with our community. Also, as Ashley said, she'll be bringing to you a plan to put a new roof on at Sand Hill this summer. So all those things are very exciting.
What about the, scoreboard?
It's going up.
It's going up, okay. I didn't know if that ran into it.
No, we have community member digging the holes for us on that, so, it's kind of when it fits his schedule. So, yeah. And so, that's all very exciting. The health center is close to completion finally, and it sounds like, because they've been able to serve a lot of our kids this year, Peninsula Community Health plans on staffing it with additional staff next year to meet the needs of kids and staff here on campus. So we're very excited. On that.
Capital projects, that was pretty
That's
much
kind
it.
of
Student board member recognition.
Yes, this is very bittersweet,
Maybe
but
on the spot.
because our board policy says that we can only allow a student board member to serve for 2 years, we've taken advantage of Spencer for 2 years, and he's grown and we've grown in working with him, and we have a little gift for you, Spencer. So you got one from the association earlier in the month, but this one is from North Mason. So we got you your own little pen that has your name on it. Yeah, they want to see it. I'm sure.
Well, thank you, Spencer. I can honestly say that you have been by far the most active and contributing student board member that I've seen in 2 separate stints. So I thank you for that.
Well, and I'm particularly pleased that you grabbed hold of some really good ideas from the conference from other students in other school districts and brought them back to North Mason and implemented those. And I think that's to your credit. And I hope that will go on and on and on.
And we're looking forward to when you someday run for school board as an adult school board member.
There you go.
Yeah, here.
Well, thank you. I really enjoyed being on the school board. I learned a lot. It made me kind of learn what I want to do when I grow up. And I'm looking forward to helping. Me and Ms. Reichson are working on finding another board member to join Morgan next year. We're kind of working on a new way to do that. We want to try to show them and kind of teach them what school board is before they commit to it, so they have a better idea of what it is before they accept the news.
When do you count as grown up?
June 26th.
Good point.
Well, I also appreciate your community involvement. I see you out there, putting yourself out there. This isn't just a show to be on the board here. You back it all up. So you do a very good job. Thank you.
And I particularly appreciate the conferences that you have instituted, and I really think it brings government on a local level right down to students and encourages them in the idea that they can make a change within a system so that they do not learn despair in the public schools, but hope with respect to governments. And I think that's a very important message.
Thank you, Spencer.
And my short comment is, I'm very proud of him because he was in the Builders Club. He's in the Key Club, and he wants to be a superintendent. Oh, that'll probably be before he becomes a board member.
Too excited.
Coming.
He's got a little school to do.
Okay. Okay. Leanna, you have June's board letter. 11, assurance of organizational performance and policy review. We did the monitoring on ER 11 last month, which is the district calendar. Do we have any changes that we'd like to see to that before we move on to the next one? All right. John, you good?
Yeah.
All right.
The only thing I was concerned about, I'm supposed to write one for this month, and I can't remember what it was.
For May?
Yeah.
Oh, I think you were gonna talk about, help me remember, we talked about this at the last board meeting.
It was, we're 5, you look at the tape.
Okay.
That would be a good idea. And that would save some time.
All right.
Well, that's something to do with engaging with the community about our process.
Yeah, I think we're talking about engaging with the community about our whole child, whole school, whole community initiative, how we're going to be inviting them to be a part of some of that work as we move into the summer and into next year and start looking at a strategic planning process again and all of that.
She can help you with that.
Yeah,
A lot of information, yeah.
I certainly appreciate that.
Okay, I would love to do that.
I'm not so proud that I won't take all the information she's got.
All right, well, moving into number 12, the adjournment phase. Good of the order. Any comments? I'll just kind of Google. Anyone have any comments to add?
One, if it's Builders Club again,
It's gonna be like that.
very short. 2 of those kids in that class were Builders Club members.
Oh.
Your impact is well fed.
Thank you.
I would like to, nobody called it out earlier when we were talking about all the activities in the district in recent weeks, but I do want to highlight the Day of Champions that we hosted along with Kiwanis of Mason, different Kiwanis groups from Mason County last week. The sports day for special needs students down in our stadium. It was an opportunity for some of our kids in leadership to get a new experience and to shine in supporting others. It was an opportunity for kids from all over Mason County to have a great day and to have some new experiences and to enjoy themselves in an athletic venue. And so I think that was really exciting.
I would like to say as a good for the order comment that one of the specific areas where the policy governance makes a difference, and you really see it as you listen to the discussions, are the things we don't get involved in. Look at the size of this manual. It's the biggest, fattest thing of all the pass outs that we got. And essentially look at what it says, budgeting and bargaining manual. And there's a whole set in here about strategies for bargaining. Because of and then of course it adds the caveat, the school board members should be very careful getting involved in this because they'll probably screw it up. That isn't the official language, but that's basically the effect. And I think it counts to our wisdom that we commission our superintendent to do that and keep our hands out of that process.
Absolutely.
Eyes on, hands off. And I think it really makes a difference because they spend most of the time, or a great portion of the time, talking about things we handle, I believe, much more efficiently.
All right, so the board self-assessment, which I get this month, the two sections of rating, the general meeting behavior, which is in regards to how we handle our agenda and the work of the board at the policy level. I'm going to rate just about everything as satisfactory. Actually, everything is satisfactory. Governance principles reviews, which is the second function of us. I'm also going to rate as satisfactory, and overall we were satisfactory for this meeting. The next board meeting will be held here, June 20th, 2019 at 6:30 p.m. And now we are going to enter into executive session in accordance with RCW 42.30.110. Adjourn into executive session for approximately 45 minutes for the purpose of evaluating the superintendent's performance during the 18-19 school year. Yes, that's right. No action is expected as a result of this executive session. And with that,